Next up, we're going to work with another kind of fun, popular data set, which is a UFO sightings data set. It's another one that is licensed for us to use. It is a data set containing over 80,000 reports of UFO sightings from the last century. And what I'm most interested in are the ones that also have location data, so latitude and longitude, because I want to generate a map showing me all the locations of UFO sightings, maybe just within the US at least. So to do this, there are two data sets that we get access to. One is cleaned up, one is called complete, and the other is, what are you called? We have complete and scrubbed. And the complete data includes entries where the location was not found or it's blank, because these go back quite far and a lot of them don't have locations. So I'm going to use the scrubbed data set that does have location information. So I'm going to go ahead and upload this to ChatGPT. You can see though, we've got things like the city, the state, the date, time, the country, the shape. So what was the shape of the UFO? A triangle, a saucer, how long did it appear for? Then we have latitude, and also it's hidden here, but we have longitude. It's just not showing up. So I'm interested in maybe all of this stuff, but specifically what I want to do in this video is generate a map plot. And there's a reason that I want to do a map plot. I'll show you what happens. All right, I've started up a new code interpreter chat session. I'm going to upload from my downloads not the IMDb data, the scrubbed data set for UFOs, because I just want to have the complete, I don't want to have to worry about cleaning my data and having incomplete or missing data. So I'll upload this, I'll give it a message. Here's a data set of UFO sightings. And we'll wait for it to respond, asking us what we want to do with it. So it's going to start by loading it using pandas, I assume. It'll read the CSV file and then look at the head or the first few lines in that file. Yeah, that's exactly what it does. And we can see all the columns in there. We've got date, time, city, state, country, shape, duration, and then longitude, latitude, all that stuff. Okay, so it tells us here are all the different columns that we have access to. There might be missing values, hopefully not, but what I'm most interested in is latitude and longitude. Although maybe I'll start with, let's visualize UFO sightings over time. Presumably, well, I don't know if it's true, but I would assume there'd be more sightings over time, but that's what I want to see. So it's first going to step in and say, it looks like we need to clean up the date time column. It appears to contain both date and time, which is true. It's a date time value. So if you look at one of those values, even if you're not a developer, it includes the date followed by the time. So what it's going to do is convert the text data into a date time object, basically so Python understands what the date and time parts are. Then once it's done that, it can generate a time series plot. And here we go. Just like all the other plots, I could ask it to change the colors, tweak any parameter, the axes, the scale, the labels, the title, the background color, the aspect ratio of the plot itself. But this is actually kind of interesting. It looks like, there's a pretty significant increase starting it started in the 60s, but then in the 90s, presumably, I don't know. I'm interested to see if it's around because of technology, the ease of capturing quote unquote UFO sightings. I don't know, but there's a massive spike, and then it seems to peak somewhere in the 2015 range. Maybe it has some analysis for us. Okay, peaks around 2010 to 2013. This trend could be due to several factors: increased public interest in UFOs, advancements in technology making it easier to report and share sightings, or even cultural phenomena like popular TV shows. Anyway, it's also just a very simple analysis. It doesn't take into account population growth, increase in technology, all of that. But my real goal here is to get these on a map. I want to see where in the US, or maybe in the whole world, but probably just the US to start, these sightings are happening. Are they all in the desert by Area 51? Are they, in particular clusters? Are there areas like, I don't know, upstate New York or Washington or something where there's a bunch of UFO sightings? So I'm going to say, let's generate a map of the US. Let's do a plot of the map of the US showing the locations of UFO sightings. So the first thing it has to do is limit the data set down, basically extract the locations that are within the bounds of the US, because it does include global sightings, and probably a lot in Canada at the very least. It just narrows down our data to the rows where the country is set to US. Okay, now that we have that, we need to create a plot. Now this is the part I wanted to get to. It says, as the current environment doesn't support interactive geospatial libraries like GeoPandas or Folium, we will create a scatter plot on a 2D plane using Matplotlib. So this kind of works. It does give us a rough geographical, you can see the shape of the US, but it's using such a big marker, it doesn't really give us much information. I want more of like a heat map where I can see, where the highest concentrations are. But the problem that we're running into is that this is not a complete Python environment. It won't do everything that you can do in the real world of Python locally on your machine. This is one of the limitations, just one of many. It is quite powerful. You can do a lot of analysis, but if you're trying to do things like generate some sort of geographical map, the most common way of doing that is using a library. I use Folium, but GeoPandas is popular too. Those are not supported in this environment. It is not a totally open box Python environment. It's closed off and only a select number of libraries are installed. So what we can do, if you are at all developer inclined, is just tell it that's okay, but I still want you to give me the code and I'll run it on my own. So that's what I'm going to say. Can you at least give me the complete code to generate a map of UFO sightings in the USA using Folium? I'll run it on my machine. Oh no, we got a timeout error. Not sure why that happened, but oh, come on. Well, that's annoying. Okay, so that did finish up. I had to regenerate everything on this page. The whole thing timed out. Kind of annoying. But now it gave me the code that I could use to create the heat map. That's an actual geographic map of the US, even though it won't do it for me in here. So this is sort of the end game of a lot of the scenarios, the more advanced things you might try using the code interpreter, where it can do a lot in the box for you right within the browser. And then at some point you hit the end of the line and it will say, all right, I can't do that. And then you can ask it to give you the code to do that. But this does require a little bit of developer know-how, because even this code that it gave me is not complete. It's assuming that I already have the data imported, which we did up here. So I could probably reprompt it. Give me the entire code, including the loading of the CSV file. And let's see if that will do it for us. Okay, here we are. So it's going to import pandas. Then it reads our CSV file. Okay, that's looking good. And in the meantime, I'm going to do this in a Jupyter Notebook. Again, if you're not familiar with Python or Jupyter Notebook, then this doesn't really matter. So I'm going to make a new notebook file here. I have my CSV file right there called scrub.csv. And in here, hasn't quite finished yet, but I'll take most of this code. There we are. I'll throw it in here. I am going to need to install Folium probably. I don't think I've installed it on this environment. Let's just see what happens when I run this. Yep, no module, Folium. So I'll just do a pip install Folium. And hopefully it doesn't take too long. That finish up. Okay, I'll delete that cell, rerun this one. Once again, this is not for the complete beginner. This is just showing that you can start with the code interpreter and then move out. Now I have a new file it created for me. You can see it's ufosightings.html. And so this is one of the reasons that Folium doesn't work within that Python environment. In the code interpreter, anything that branches out of the world of Python and doesn't just simply return a little image, things like, well, Folium that generates an HTML website, that's going to be a problem. However, it did work. Let's zoom out of this. We might need to adjust some of the sensitivity here. We're just getting heat almost everywhere, although it looks like there's, gaps in pretty unpopulated areas like Wyoming. And then there's hot spots along the coast and in more populous areas. Hotspot in the desert there is that Nevada? No, Arizona. Sorry, I'm bad with my US states. Anyway, the point here is not to actually make some revolutionary visualization, but to show you that you can use this code interpreter as a starting point, hit the end of the line, then ask it to give you code to run on your own machine. And it will still know about those tools. It just can't use those tools in the browser like it can with Matplotlib and Pandas and Seaborn and a handful of other libraries, actually more than a handful. Why don't we just end this video by asking, what libraries do you have access to? I don't think it will give me a complete list, but it will tell me some of the most important ones that it can use. So NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, Seaborn, we've already seen all of those. SciPy, scikit-learn, Natural Language Toolkit, so tons of different Python libraries, although now it's starting to list some of the standard libraries too, going over the top here. But then it's saying it can't do anything involving internet access, can't make requests, can't do web scraping, it can't do things that make interactive plots. That's kind of what we just saw, Folium, Plotly, but it can help us write code using those libraries, which is what we just did. Okay.